Political history of Chief Moshood MkO Abiola. Chief Moshood Abiola. The political turmoil endured by the citizens of Nigeria during the final decades of the 20th century was led by a varied group of individuals. Most of the most influential was Moshood Abiola, the year 1937 to 1990. A Nigerian businessman educated in Scotland, he climbed to the top of several corporate ladders, building a political and financial empire. Moshood MkO Abiola was born into a poor family in Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria on the date August 24, 1937. Abiola received his primary education at the Baptist Boys High School, BBHS, and earned a scholarship to attend the University of Glasgow, Scotland, where he received a degree in economics. Abiola was raised in the Yoruba Muslim faith, the certain part of Nigeria where he was brought up in divided primarily between Christian and Muslim believers. Known for his outspoken political stances, Abiola lobbied the United States and several European nations in 1992, demanding reparation for the enslavement of African people and recompense for the fortune made in harvesting Africa's raw materials. Muslim marital tradition. Following common traditions, Abiola took 4 wives: Simbiat Atinuke Shoaga in 1960, Kudirat Olayemi in 1973, Adebisi Olawumi Osun in 1974, and Doyinsola Doyin Abiola Abioba in 1981. He is said to have fathered over 40 children from these 4 marriages. Abiola's second wife, Kudirat, was murdered in the capital city of Lagos in 1996. There was a speculation that her death was caused by the military, but no proof was ever found. His third wife, Doyin, ran a newspaper chain he owned until it was closed by the government in 1992. Abiola was ordered to pay $20,000 a month in child supporting to a woman who claimed to be his wife. His lawyers argued in New Jersey court that Abiola had only 4 wives. This woman was just one of his 19 concubines. A businessman and entrepreneur, Abiola was considered to be a genial businessman who amassed a fortune through his association with various enterprises, including publishing, communications, and oil. With his educational background in accounting, he easily assumed the position of Deputy Chief Accountant at Lagos University Teaching Hospital from 1965 to 1967, and Comptroller of Pista Products Limited between 1967 and 1969. In 1969, he became the Comptroller of International Telephone and Telegraph (ITT) Nigeria Limited, and rapidly rose to become Vice President for ITT's Africa and Middle East branch. He was also Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of ITT Nigeria Limited from 1972 through 1988. From 1972 to 1988. During this period, Abiola founded and sat as Chairman of Concord Press of Nigeria Limited and served as Chief Executive at Radio Communications Nigeria. While employed with ITT, he was frequently admonished by the general public due to the dreadful condition of Nigeria telephone system. Abiola's detractors claim he profited financially at the expense of the citizens by using inferior materials and keeping extra profits for himself, charges he adamantly denied. Much of Abiola's fortune, which was estimated at close to $2 billion, he freely distributed to others. He is said to have sent over 2,500 students through the university system, as well as donation money to charities and championing sporting events. His generosity earned Abiola the nickname Father Christmas among the citizens of Nigeria. In addition to his generosity, Abiola was considered as astute businessman. For over 20 years, he carefully cultivated friends throughout the country. He considered himself well liked by the Nigerian military establishment, a miscalculation that would cost him deadly. Political struggles. Nigeria, the most populous country on the African continent, obtained its freedom from Britain in 1960. During the 4 decades that followed, it endured several major political crises, including the collapse of civilian rule in 1960s and collapse of the civilian-headed Second Republic in the 1980s. Both of these crises were accelerated by civil violence in Yoruba, the southern-western district of the country. Historically, North-South conflicts have peppered Nigeria as political power has been held by the North. The headquarters for the country's military, Abiola, who hailed from the southern district of Yoruba, brought a different perspective to the country's political makeup. His cultivation of people on both sides of the North-South divide ultimately proved to be beneficial. A bid for democracy. In 1993, the Nigerian government was undergoing another in a series of attempts at stabilization. Major General Babangida, together with Nigerian political leaders, inaugurated the Transitional Council and the National Defense and Security Council (NDSC). These governing bodies were designed to exist until democratic election could be held to choose a president. On January 5, 1993, the process of screening over 250 presidential candidates was begun by the National Electoral Commission (NEC). The NEC banned previous candidates and parties from campaigning, and so the long process began. By the end of March, Abiola was chosen by the Social Democratic Party (SDP) as their candidate. The National Republican Convention (NRC) chose Basiru Othman Tofa as the election was scheduled for June 12, 1993. The results clearly showed Abiola to be the winner. Babangida, wishing to continue military rule, petitioned the High Court to delay the elections, and on June 16, the announcement of the result was postponed. In defiance of the court order, a group called Campaign for Democracy released the election results, declaring Abiola to be the winner, with 19 of 30 states supporting him. Less than a week later, the NDSC voided the election, supposedly to protect the legal system and the judiciary from being ridiculed, both nationally and internationally. Both the US and Great Britain reacted to the violation of democratic principles by restricting aid to Nigeria. Abiola, believing himself to have been given a mandate from the voters, joined the Campaign for Democracy in calling for voters to perform acts of civil disobedience in an attempt to force the election results to stand. In response, Major Babangida used the authority he still retained to ban both Abiola and Tofa from participating in any elections. On July 6, 1993, Nigerian leaders demanded that both parties agree to participate in an interim national government. They reluctantly agreed, and on July 16, plans were announced for a new election, but immediately abandoned. On July 31, Babangida, president of the NDSC, announced an interim government would take effect on August 27. He stepped down on the day before the new government took effect, handing power over to a private loyalist, Chief Shonekan. Nigerians supporting Abiola demanded that power be turned over to him as the rightful winner of the original election. That election was considered by many to have been the cleanest in Nigeria's history and was praised as a concerted effort to overcome ethnic and religious division throughout the country. A.O. Olukoshi, a professor at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Lagos, commented on the election and majority win by Abiola, saying, "Abiola allowed us to rise above ethnic and religious differences. This was the first time a Yoruba has been able to win votes both in the East and the North." By this point, Abiola had traveled to London, where he denounced the entire process. Throughout August 1993, Nigeria was paralyzed by strikes and unrest and came almost to a standstill. Abiola remained abroad for several months, finally returning to Nigeria at the end of the year. In November 1993, Chief Shonekan was overthrown by General Sani Abacha as the military once again seized power in Nigeria. Continuing unrest. The sentiment against the military grew during the first part of 1994. During the Constitutional Conference of May 23, the Campaign for Democracy called for a boycott of election, demanding that the military return power to Abiola, the presumed winner of the prior year elections. On June 11, 1994, after declaring himself to be president before a group of 3,000, Abiola went into hiding. He called for an uprising to force the military to recognize the 1993 vote. The military, conducting a nationwide hunt, arrested him on June 23. The following day, 1,000 demonstrators marched on Lagos to demand Abiola's release. By July, a war of attrition by Nobel Prize winner Wole Soyinka was launched against the government. In response, the military charged Abiola with treason. Soyinka, one of the driving forces behind Abiola, was forced to flee the country after being charged with treason. The oil workers went on a 10-day strike, crippling the nation's leading industry and bringing the country to an economic halt. Riots flared in Lagos, and by the strike's third week, 20 people had been killed. By mid-August, the strike had brought unrest to the northern and eastern part of the country as support for Abiola continued to increase. Abacha responded by firing any high-ranking military he thought were not loyal, then fired the head of the state companies and their boats. Abacha eventually crushed the strike after 9 weeks. He arrested any pro-democracy leader that could be found. Heart attack or poison. Abiola remained under arrest for 4 years and was not allowed visits by either his family or personal physician. He was denied proper medical care even after being examined by state-authorized doctor. Abiola's daughter, Hafsat, said the family was allowed no contact during her father's 4 years in prison. On July 7, 1998, only days before his scheduled release from prison, Abiola collapsed during a visit with a U.S. delegation and died in Abuja, Nigeria, of an alleged heart attack. His longtime friend and supporter, Wole Soyinka, expressed doubt that the death was the result of natural causes. I'm convinced that some of the slow poison was administered to Abiola, he told an interviewer after learning of his friend's death. Soyinka claimed that other Nigerian political prisoners had been injected with poison and indicated that he had received a note prior to Abiola's death stating that his friend would be killed within the next few days. An autopsy found that Abiola's heart was seriously diseased and confirmed it as the cause of his death. The U.S. delegation visiting Abiola at the time of his attack saw no reason to presume foul play, indicating that the presiding doctor felt that the symptoms were consistent with a heart attack. Abiola's death shocked and saddened a country that had come close to experiencing true democracy through valid election for the first time in its history. The Roman Catholic Archbishop of Lagos, Anthony Okoje, commented on Abiola passing by saying his death is the end of a chapter. Instead of celebrating his release and possible resurgence of democracy, Nigeria stepped back to regather itself and start the process again.
The Abiola family wanted a quiet and dignified funeral, but when the body appeared, the crowd went wild with emotion.
The fact that you are now a socialist that believes in big government.
There's no inconsistency whatsoever in my position. I was asked a straightforward question. Will you implement SARS? And I said no. Nigerian people wouldn't have voted for me to implement the policy of the federal military government. We will implement the SDP policy. If NRC's business is to carry on SARS, that is their own party policy. That is the first thing. There's no inconsistency. I pointed out issues of budget deficit. I pointed out issues of oversupply of cash in circulation, which were posted by your candidate as being atrocious. These are the if the time is right, if the time is right, and it all depends on a lot of things. I haven't been taking part in this political process since it started in 1987. You need to know the people you are working with, and you need to know that a tree does not make a forest. Like I said, nobody plants with only one hand. It has to be with so many hands. But there is general acceptance. Yeah, there is the attitude of our people that it's about time we had a leader from this part of the country too. That is part of the thing too. But I agree with that. But I don't know. See, I'm thinking about it.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
No, I've ventured a lot. You see, a situation where I will have to go through primaries and so on when I haven't really made any preparation. That there are 7,000 wards in this country. 7,000 wards.
You have
up and down.
You have.
You think I have?
Yes, I think you have. You don't have to go out there. That's true. You have. The name is already there.
Anyway,
Wish you luck, sir.
yeah, thank you. I will be able to let you know about the 3rd or so of March.
Okay.